you're going to be in the networked world, you got to be able to tell who's real and who's not. And you have to be willing to figure out how to create value for that person. I have a lot of athlete and celebrity friends, right? And you're the gatekeeper for them. And if you ever violate that, you're going to lose that relationship. And I know what that means to my friend as well. So Kyle Van Noy is the middle linebacker for the Patriots, won a couple of Super Bowls. He was my roommate in college. They were playing a game in Mexico City a couple of years ago. But I happened to run into a buddy of mine from back here in Utah that's there, and he's with this guy that's just kind of whatever. These dudes come, and I told him, I was like, hey man, just kind of be chill or whatever. There's no photos, no autographs, just be chill, hang out, right? My buddy was fine, but his buddy that I didn't even know, he goes up to Kyle and he's like, dude, he's like, so good to meet you. He's like, you went out with my wife when you were in college, bro. And Kyle's like, okay. So Kyle kind of blows him off and we're talking for a minute, and the dude comes back and he's got a photo of his wife. And he's like, look, bro, this is her. You went out with her in college. Kyle literally in front of the dude looks at me. He goes, never again, bro. Who is this guy? Why is he here? And it was like, I didn't do my job to protect the situation, right? So like a lot of times people are like, dude, can I come with you? Can I get back to them? I'm like, no. Like at this point, you have to know how to play the game correctly or else you can't play.
I feel like I was a gatekeeper to a lot of big money that's maybe not famous. I can feel what you're talking about.
And it's your job to protect them. You owe it to your closest friends to never at their expense make an introduction. You have to prove to me that you're a giver, not a taker.
Well, with Jimmy Rex, number one for the audience, I think he's one of the most incredible people in America. He's someone that inspires the shit out of me. And the seed of this gentleman right here is what created Man on a Mission. Most people don't realize where the seeds of inspiration that create actions come from. But he's interviewed so many people. And before we officially start the show and we get, to the clouds, we're talking about just real shit. Like he just interviewed Johnny Manziel, right?
Yeah, a couple of months ago.
Like, you don't just get these interviews. You have to have a lot of social proof, a lot of moral authority to get someone like sitting there.
And then how deep you can go with a public figure.
Well,
and it is interesting too. Is like kind of I didn't talk about this before, but so that Johnny Manziel interview. So people always ask, dude, how do you get this stuff set up? Like, how do you do this? How do you end up with Jerry West on your podcast? Johnny Manziel, Ed Milo, whoever it is, right? And there's always so much more to it than people realize. So I'll just tell you the Johnny Manziel one because it kind of paints a picture of the behind the scenes and why that interview sucked and why I couldn't do anything about it. Because what happened is I meet this guy a couple years ago, and one of the things is you have to have the art. If you're going to be in the networked world, you got to be able to tell who's real and who's not, and you have to be willing to figure out how to create value for that person. Like everybody needs something. It's your job to figure it out. If you're asking them, you've already blown it, right? But it's like game recognizes game. When you hear one of these networkers, when you meet one, you know it. You're like, oh, this dude's legit. Like this. So I meet this dude at a lunch. His name's Dana Pump. And have you ever heard of the Pump Brothers? Probably not. These dudes like basically created AAU basketball. So they're friends. They run the show in LA. They do this big charity for cancer. Just these two brothers. They're so funny. The ultimate characters. And they drive everyone nuts, but in the best ways possible. And first time I meet with the dude, we're just jamming. And somehow what was cool is he's a dreamer too, just like you, Eric. And something came up. We talked about throwing out the first pitch. I just thrown out the first pitch at an Angels game. And I told him I have a goal. One of my goals in life is to throw out the first pitch at every stadium. Some people say I want to go to every major league stadium. I'm like, I want to throw out the first pitch at every stadium.
Sick.
And he's like, hold on. He gets on the phone. Next thing I know, I'm talking to the GM of the Cardinals. He's setting me up to go throw out the first pitch. Oh yeah, this dude's
awesome.
he's
Careful
like,
what
what's
you
your favorite
speak
team?
into
And
being,
I go, the Cleveland Indians. He goes, hold on. He gets Kenny Lofton on the phone.
You're shitty.
Like, no, this dude is like the real. And I'm just laughing. He's just like. I'm like, I don't want to talk to Kenny Lofton. I don't even know what to say to him. But like, even though he was one of my favorite players, I can just picture him on the other end of the phone.
I had his
like,
rookie
all right,
card.
Dana,
Totally.
And so anyway, so I end up just kind of being in touch with this guy, and I end up going out and spending some time with him in LA, donated some money to his charity. And he says to me, he says, hey man, he's like, I really appreciate you donating that money. He said, if you come out, I throw this big charity event, get a suite at the hotel I'm throwing it at. I'll just run guys up to your room. I have 95 athletes, celebrities coming to the event. I'm like, okay. So I get a suite. And I'm thinking, who knows how this is going to happen? Dude, he runs up to my room. Ozzie Smith, Vince Young, Jerry West, Johnny Manziel, Lamar Odom. The list just keeps going on and on. I interviewed over 20 people in 2 days on my podcast just from this dude. And all because he saw that I was a giver and we're giving back to each other, right? So here's my point. So Johnny Manziel comes on. It was right when the documentary came out.
Yeah.
And he really
Netflix.
had to push hard to get Johnny. He was partying all night. We couldn't even find him till like
Really?
way late in the day.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of nervous. I didn't know if it was going to happen. And he just didn't want to open up. I tried so hard to get him to talk, and the podcast wasn't really going. But here's the thing. If it's like a normal podcast that I connected or like whatever, somebody reached out to me, I would have pushed pretty hard to make that. Like, hey, man, let's open up here. I would have said on the podcast,
Yeah.
like, what's going on? Have I offended you in some way? Like,
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
want to be here? Like, I would have asked some tougher questions, but I can't burn this bridge no matter what.
Yeah.
So I just had to keep trying.
safe.
Yeah, and I just couldn't push it a little bit harder. And so the podcast is what it is. Oh, that same day, did you see when I boxed with Mike Tyson?
Yeah, what the
This same
fuck
guy
was
set
that?
it up for me,
Amazing.
bro. Like, you have to meet this dude. He's and you know, we just go back and forth helping each other with stuff. Like, I called him up and I introduced him to a bunch of people that he wanted to know.
So
I've
good.
introduced him to a bunch of guys that needed tickets. He's a ticket broker too. So like the NBA All-Star game came to Utah this year, right? He calls me up the week of because he does hundreds of tickets to every big event.
Yeah.
And I've connected him with a lot of big guys. And so he calls me up and he's like, dude, this is your town. You need to be the guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And he goes, he's like, listen, he goes, I'm close friends with Dr. J. He's got an extra ticket to sit with him at the All-Star game.
Yeah.
I think he's sitting on the front row. I'm like, well, of course he is, freaking Dr. J.
Yeah.
Bro, this guy gets me. So I meet with Dr. J, go to dinner before
Yeah.
the game. This is like one of the 10 most famous basketball players of all time, right?
Yeah.
I'm sitting front row. Have you seen my picture of this?
Yes, I have.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Dominique Wilkins, Dr. J, me, and Allen Iverson sitting on the front row.
So dope.
That's amazing.
I watched the whole game from the front row, had the greatest experience of
That's
all
a
time.
101 in life.
Oh,
a
you
101.
couldn't sell that ticket for $500,000. It was you can't
yeah,
even get that
yeah,
experience.
yeah. That's
I made a post with the five of us sitting there, you know.
Oh,
like
what
from
a funny picture in a
And
way.
I put, name a starting five that would beat us in our prime.
Dude, I always
that's
wanted
an
the
iconic
backstory to
picture.
that.
Do you have that? You should.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've
show
got
it.
it.
Let's
I'll
put
show
up.
you. Yeah.
I've always
Yeah. I wanna
always
see that
wanted to
one.
hear the
Wait till you see a
backstory to
shark
some of the
picture.
shit. So if people that know Jimmy Rex,
Yes.
it's crazy where he goes in the world, how many people he brings with him, and now we're gonna get a behind the scenes actually of how it all actually works.
Yeah, dude.
This is
Let me
nuts,
see this
man.
picture.
Dude, look at the five of us right there. It's Dr. J, me,
Oh, look at that.
AI, Kareem
One man is
Abdul-Jabbar.
a little different in this picture.
Yeah,
It's such an epic picture.
this is fun. And what's
Anyway.
crazy is we always try to teach lessons here and
Yeah.
provide inspiration. There's actually a really deep lesson be here on how to do one-on-one shit in life.
Yeah.
And it's really about this unique ability to spot things that other guys don't value and they won't invest in.
and a human grace about it too, like that instinctual sensitivity. Like, I'm not gonna disturb the sanctity of this bond or wreck.
Well, you
like,
gotta-
people
yeah, you
just
have to
either
have a
that
barometer.
Well, I've been the gatekeeper I have a lot of athlete and celebrity friends, right? And you're the gatekeeper for them. And if you ever
Trust.
violate that, you're going to lose that
fucked,
relationship. And I know what that means to my friend as well.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you another example of that where like it burned me. So Kyle Van Noy is the middle linebacker for the Patriots, won a couple of Super Bowls. He was my roommate in college. He's one of my closest buddies.
Yeah.
And they were playing a game in Mexico City a couple of years ago, just a regular season game. I happened to be in Mexico City. We were undercover at the time there, like crazy, a coincidence.
Yeah.
So I'm like, bro, can you get me some tickets? He's like, yeah, I get as many as you want. Nobody's coming to Mexico for this
Yeah,
game, right?
yeah, yeah.
So I get 4 tickets for me and the other guys. Well, 2 of the dudes end up getting sick and can't come. So 2 of us go. But I happen to run into a buddy of mine from back here in Utah that's there, and he's with this guy that's just kind of whatever. I don't really know
Yeah.
the guy. And he's like, dude, and we had behind the stage passes or whatever you call them, like where you go hang out with the team after
Sure.
the
Yeah,
game and
yeah.
stuff. And I'm like, hey, I got these 2 extra passes. My guys didn't come. If you want to come, you know, just you can come meet Kyle and Tom Brady
Yeah.
or whatever else. And so
Be respectful.
these dudes come and I told them, I was like, hey man, just kind of be chill or whatever. There's no photos, no autographs, just be chill, hang out, right? And
Act like you've been there.
dude, the one guy, his buddy, my buddy was fine, but his buddy that I didn't even know was drunk. And Kyle, they just played this big game. They won, you know, and he goes up to Kyle and he's like, dude, he's like, so good to meet you. He's like, bro, you went out, and Kyle's with his wife. He's like, you went out with my wife when you were in college, bro. And Kyle's like, okay.
Yeah.
And Kyle kind of like looks at me like, who is this? Like, why is he
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
And you know, the other players are like getting on the bus. You're kind of off to the side. And anyway, and so Kyle kind of blows him off, and we're talking for a minute. And the dude comes back, and he's got a photo of his wife. He's like, look, bro, this is her. You went out with her in
man.
college. Kyle literally in front of the dude looks at me. He goes, never again, bro. Who is this guy? Why is he here? Like, And it was like, I didn't do my job to protect
you didn't.
the situation, right? It was the only time I've ever, and so like a lot of times people are like, dude, can I come with you? Can I get back to I'm like, no.
yeah.
Like at this point,
it's just not
you
worth
have to know how to play the game correctly or else you can't play it.
Totally agree. Everything he's resonating with, Jimmy's been there, done that many
Yeah,
places
yeah.
before I have.
Yeah.
I'm actually entering this arena,
Yeah.
and I feel like I was a gatekeeper to a lot of big money that's maybe not famous. I can feel what you're talking about.
Yeah, oh,
I got
yeah.
billionaire partners.
That's your job to protect them.
I'm on private jets. There's a sanctity around who's on those jets. I'm finding more and more. You got to be very careful when you disclose how and what you're disclosing. Be very tasteful about how you do it. It's the same world that you're in that I'm entering, and I feel this in real time. There's a lot of lessons here about how to be savvy, how to spot things the average guy doesn't spot. You're bridging the gap between where two major values may be exchanged. You are kind of a center divide. And I provide a lot of value that is odd, that most people don't understand how I do what I do, but I know you get it. And again, I have a unique barometer.
In my impression, you have a properly ordered value set. Like, I just watched It's a Wonderful Life, and at the end of this classic Christmas movie, you know, there's this one letter this angel writes to George Bailey, the lead actor, and he's like, look, remember, no man is a failure who has real friendships. Or I think that's a paraphrase. And it's like the transcend accomplishment, fame, personal gain, but like friendship and honoring that.
Yeah.
Like that, people sense when that's happening.
Yeah, you
and
protect
that's
it.
a transcendent value to monetary networks.
Yeah, well, and
and
you never want to be like, you owe it to your closest friends to never at their expense make an introduction. Like I'll have people hit me up all the time and they're like, can you introduce me to friends? Like some rich business guys too, right? Hey, I want to do their swag. Can you introduce me to so-and-so? And I'll literally say, well, you've created no value for them yet. Why would I do that introduction? Like this isn't a pay to play thing. It's like you have to prove to me that you're a giver, not a taker.
Yeah.
If you're not going to make my friend's life
because I
better,
love my friend.
you don't get to be around that. Absolutely. And then I'll have people like, hey man, can you send me Ed's number real quick? Like Ed, I go, you know how hard I worked for that?
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what that?
It's such a lack of
You know
sensibility.
what would
that question.
happen if I did that? I would lose
Yeah,
my friendship.
I've had a lot of cringe moments, and even you in describing that friend, I've been there where I'm like, fuck, it was a bad decision. And so I keep this shit sacred. Like the people that are valuable.
Oh,
that
where
have given,
you yourself misstepped and you
I don't
regret
just
it.
open
Yeah.
up doors, man, for people to barge in and
Yeah.
be themselves.
Well,
like,
and by the way, this is where it's cool. So because I didn't burn that bridge with Johnny, even though it was a terrible podcast, this is
Right.
bringing it full circle. I put the podcast out. Ed Milet calls me. He says, how the hell did you get Johnny Manziel on your podcast? I've been trying to get him on mine. And I
Wow,
was like, oh, let me connect you to my friend Dana.
Yeah.
He's the one that connected me.
Because
I go,
you-
you need to know this guy anyways. He runs LA. So I called Dana. I said, hey, I got to really connect for you. I want to hook
So
you up
good.
with Ed Milet.
Good for you.
He's like, oh, wow. And I
And
was like,
because you respected Johnny, you didn't.
so, right. So Dana and Ed connected, and now they'll do all sorts of stuff together.
Sure, but you're the
And
link.
I was able to connect.
You're the link.
Yeah, I created value for Ed, which very few people can do.
Very
The
few
guy can
people.
do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
I created value for Dana, which very few people can do. And so that's where you're looking for these opportunities. And it was because I was smart enough to just back off. It's not about me. I don't need to get the world's greatest interview with Johnny
Yeah.
Manziel.
so good.
Another day.
Yeah,
Very
totally.
few people in life will ever understand what
It's
you're
a
even
proper
talking
order.
about. They don't understand.
It's like
There's-
it's an old question. Like, can you coach this? Like Socrates and Plato. It's like an instinctual inner prioritization of virtue and like I'm not gonna. You know what I'm saying? Some
and
people
it is
just-
a game.
How do you coach
too.
that? Like you know.
And there's a savviness about this.
It's social intelligence. It's
right.
emotional
Timing.
intelligence. Dude, I have to teach the guys I coach how to be a wingman. I'll tell you this experience real quick, because it's like learning how to be a social creature is so important. I know when I'm on this
it's
stage,
bigger than anything else.
I know. But I spoke for your group today. I knew when I got up, everybody there is kind of like, okay, Eric, we want to get into this. So I make a quick joke, honoring you, bringing everybody in, and they immediately go, okay, this guy's funny. He sees what we see. Eric was kind of laughing at it. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden we're on the same page.
Yeah.
They immediately trust me. He sees what I see. And so that's all strategic to get people to just see the same vision. So I had, like my guys, I have to teach them how to be social. Like, I'll teach them how to be a wingman. So we were at Lake Powell a couple of months ago on the houseboat with our group, 50 guys, and we're all sitting around the beach doing these mini masterminds. And these two girls pull up. And one of the guys in my group was recently divorced, and these girls were coming to say hi to him, and total babes. And he goes to walk over there, and like 5 of the dudes start like, oh, woo, what's up? And just being idiots, right?
Yeah.
And I literally go, hey, shut the hell up. What is wrong with you?
man.
And they're like, what? I go, act like he's been here before.
Yeah,
This is
right.
freaking
Tee him up.
Tuesday for
Tee him
him.
up.
Yeah.
I go, And then one of the other guys went over there and was like kind of lingering too long, and I knew exactly what he was doing. He was testing the water, so I said, "Hey, come here, I got to talk to you." He said, "Sit your ass here. These aren't your friends."
So good.
I was like, "Get your ass over
So
and be
good.
a wingman. If you go over there, the only thing you do is hype your buddy."
Yeah, make him look good and do
We
it
had
like it's
we had
effortless.
we had our Christmas party the other day, and this guy brought a girl as a second date, and he's recently divorced, and he was nervous. You could tell. And I just go up, and most people will go up to the girl and be like, "Whoa!" And they make the guy like dumb,
Something
right?
weird.
And I go up to the girl and I
No,
said,
honor
"Hey,"
him.
I said, "You must be special because he doesn't bring any girl around, and this is my guy." So
Yeah, right.
just wanted to say hi. My name's Jimmy. And then I
Class
leave.
move, bro.
Rest of the night is his worth. Just immediately make him look good. But it's those little things that you have to. You actually have to study them. You have to be around people that know
This
how to
is an
do it.
art form.
Yes,
Well,
and
it's-
then you practice it, right?
And it seems like it's like deep because like a lot of these guys, a lot of it's like a deep attachment wound or something. Like when they get more complete within themselves, they don't need to like try to win the approval or they're. It's strange. It takes a while for this to shift in somebody.
Yeah, it's
like
also it's an art form. It is game. Like people that move through life and make it look effortless, there's because they understand something that the masses
social
don't see.
intelligence.
Dude, so many ideas are coming to my head of things to share with this, but it's like I had one the other day. Like we're sitting there talking, and one of the dudes is kind of looking around, kind of playing with his straw, right? I said, "Hey, do you know how low value you make the guy speaking looks when you're fucking not? Sorry, when you're freaking not."
No, you're
paying
good.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is the pastor things for me.
Yeah.
No, when you're sitting there not paying attention to your buddy while he's talking, like
Yeah,
you're
dude.
trying to look high value in a room, like honor your friend and be present with him. If
Yeah.
you're looking around or on your phone, you
Yeah.
just make the guy you're with
That
look
is the
so
most
unimportant.
painful thing
It's
to
such a
experience.
small thing,
That's
but
real-
I'm like,
yeah.
teach those things all the time
it's
because
so
you only have to
true.
have somebody do that to you once till you'll realize, like, oh, he just made me look like a jackass.
Yeah, lock in. That's good. That's really good.
I love my wife, Margot. If you listen to this one, like I remember when we were kind of dating, and it's more of a temperament thing. She'd be like, she's a good listener, but she'd be listening, and she'd just look away a little bit while I was talking about something vulnerable and meaningful. And I'm more immature also, so I'm like, fuck, are you even here? Like it's such a deep, vulnerable thing to connect with a human, and if you're not squared up and like with now, I failed my wife listening to her, but that was really important to me. Like I couldn't stand. I was like, I don't even want to talk to you.
She didn't have eyes to see.
Oh,
No,
I've
and you coach one another. You grow up together
You grow
in a
up, yeah.
relationship. So I was too intense in the compensation, whatever. But even that, and she'll laugh about that now. Like it's true. It's like just. I remember even dating. I'd noticed.
Well,
God bless.
that's
you know.
subtle, but it's not. I mean, that's
It's
everything
not.
to somebody. Like you're pouring your heart out, and we've all felt that
Yeah,
feeling. when
yeah, they
somebody-
just- their eye
you're
flickers
like,
and you just-
okay, I'm done with this.
you're like, I'm
story.
out of this
Or they're
conversation.
like, all of a sudden there's 3 people listening and one just isn't, and then these 2 start dying laughing, and this person's like, wait, what happened? And you're like, no, you don't get this
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
This story wasn't for you,
Yeah,
clearly, you know.
yeah.
But you know that.
Somehow in this is actually such a unique conversation
It is.
because there's so much relation that we've all had to this, and there's so many different periods in our career where we weren't as class act as we should have been or we could have been, and we didn't exploit the potential of really what being a solid human is about, and a savvy human that is a complete class act through and through.
That's my biggest impression of you, Jimmy. I mean, you do have those intangible qualities of being. It's like a mode of being.
Jimmy's
meeting you in person and
really
just seeing how you navigate with people and.
I've always known Jimmy is special,
Yeah,
and he's not a
yeah.
diamond in the rough. Because at first, outward apparent, Jimmy is the most connected person
Well, he does-
out there.
I don't feel like he
plays
needs anything
Such a
from you.
solid role.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
point is this: the trajectory of a Jimmy Rex.
Yeah.
There are so many lessons in what he does, and he lives life to the complete,
Well, you have the-
most optimal, fullest. Does he not?
Here's my other impression. Speaking as like a former
show
therapist and
this.
temperament, like you also have the behind the scenes work ethic coupled with the gift of I don't know social intelligence, a grace,
Oh,
a good
God.
heart.
He's
You
a
combine
giver.
those as a listener, like dude. Some people have one or the other.
And you got to see, the camera. We're gonna send this to Colton. I'm already sending it.
This is
But,
the
like,
most amazing thing.
thousands of pictures that are like one-on-ones. We'll zoom in. The one-on-one experiences in life. There's one. That's just the first one that popped up.
Peak rare.
Like you're doing one-on-one type shit. This isn't fake. You know how people like when they travel to
if
Mexico,
you're just
they-
listening to this, he's showing a
Okay.
picture of a tiger shark. Jimmy's swimming
Touching
with it.
its face.
And it's just artistically an exquisite picture.
We're gonna tee up Jimmy here for a minute because Jimmy lives a life that most can only dream of,
give
and he
context to it.
makes it
Yeah.
look effortless.
Let's tell a bit
He
of
built
his-
a whole
yeah.
brand and a lifestyle around doing one-on-one type experiences. You know when you go to Mexico and you say, "Honey, what excursion you want to do today?" And, "Well, let's do this one," and you sign up for the program, and it's like $99 a person, and you travel like you're doing one-on-one stuff, but you're really not. You were just getting shuttled around and like school bussed around. No, Jimmy does life like as rare as a human can, the way ultra wealthy people do life. I always wondered, how do I actually travel like Dan Bilzerian? Like Jimmy gets to do it. Not only that though, he brings a brotherhood of like true blood. People that would die for each other, kill for each other, bury the body together. He does life so unique because he built such a powerful community that is so honest and raw, so vulnerable and real. And he travels the world doing these one-on-one experiences where they challenge each other as men to do some of the scariest, most vulnerable things humans can do. He's been all around the world, countless different countries. How many countries you been to, Jimmy?
I've been to 106 now.
Yeah, you want to see what living on the edge actually looks like. Now, not every man can do this. Not every human's going to be capable of living this way, but there's lessons in all this that are rarer than most people you'll ever meet. And if we can exploit some of that today, but our first conversation started like behind the scenes, like how do you get some of the best podcast interviews in the world with some of the rarest humans on the world, and where did they bomb and where did they not? And then it turns to an episode on how to be a great connector, having the eye to see, class act, character. Like we're all building around the formula around how to be a guy that lives a rare life, right? A human that lives a rare life is rare in and of itself. This is a unique, I think, behind the scenes setup for how to build a very rare life. And where would it start, I guess, is my first question. Was I study Jimmy and I try to adopt some things that I know I'm naturally good at and I'm leaning into. Jimmy's ability to build trust and community is profound. And his ability to pull the best in you out of you as he leads through vulnerability, it's crazy, man. And it's really cool to try to adopt some of this in my own personal life and then build a relationship with him along the way. Very cool. When I first met Jimmy, I think it was a great tee-up spot. I had tears in my eyes. And my first experience with Jimmy was so profound. He shared the story of how his community in Utah was built. We are the they. Yeah. And at first, it kind of didn't make sense. Like, oh, that's the name of your group? No. Yeah. Once you know what the words mean, it just hit home. And it really tells a beautiful story about Jimmy. I don't want to give it away.
I think it's worth retelling.
Yeah, you want to tell it?
Sure. Yeah. No, I appreciate that, man. And it does mean a lot. It's funny because you know, the guys in the community, they're so proud of the name. They're so proud of the brand. We can't keep our swag on the shelves. I have like 6 dudes in the group who've got tattoos of our logo or whatever.
That's amazing.
Because they're just so proud of the name. And in fact, we had a speaker come one time and he was trying to it's really beautiful. And he was trying to sell us like TRT replacement, you know, therapy or whatever. And he screwed up the name. He called it We Are They. Oh, and everybody was so bugged and so offended that this guy screwed up our name because it is so important to us that not one person signed up for his thing.
Oh, wow.
Anyway,
an example of listening. This
it's painful, right?
Yeah.
Like
Details
it's
matter.
not We Are They. It's We Are the They. And what it means, essentially, I used to work with some groups, would go undercover and go to foreign countries and help kids that were being sex trafficked, help rescue them. And did the particular op, it was in Mexico. This was by far our most dangerous op. I mean, there's bad guys when we go undercover, and then there's like evil guys. The bad guys are like trafficking, you know, their niece or their cousin or their son or whatever it might be. Awful, obviously. But then there's like the evil dudes are like they have an organization around this.
Premeditated.
They're kidnapping kids or raping kids, the whole thing, right? That's what these guys were. And this op, dude, I'll never forget. I was the only one that spoke Spanish in the group. And so I had to communicate with this guy for like almost 20 minutes going back and forth. And I mean, they had the guns on them. They had a perimeter set. If at any point they were like, thought that we were anything other than what we were, you know, pretending
You're
to
gonna be dead.
Oh, yeah, we were dead. Yeah, on the spot.
That's scary.
And these guys kind of ran this whole area. Anyway, long story short, we do the op, we do the takedown, do the rescue. And I remember hearing the dude getting tased over and over. It was like the best sound ever. Like it was hilarious.
Interesting.
Screaming, yeah. And anyway, so we come home from this op, and dude, I was almost going to be done with ops because it was pretty damn scary. It
can't
really
even imagine.
was. Yeah, we called the head guy when, you know, after we first met this guy, we're like, we've met some pretty evil dudes here. Like, what do we do? And we thankfully went back 2 weeks later. We did the op, and on the way home from that, my girlfriend at the time, she was driving my truck, and she picked me up from the airport, and she pulls over, and she says, "Hey, I don't think I want you to do this anymore." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, I just told you about this rescue, this huge thing." And she's like, "No, but it was like super, you know, it's a bad environment. It's super dangerous. I just don't want you to do it anymore." And I said, "Well, you know, this is going to be part of my life's mission now." And she says, "Well, like, why don't they just go do it?" And without even thinking, I just said, there is no they. Like, we are the they. And when I said that, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it just sent shivers down my spine. I was just like, that's going to be my new motto for life.
Profound.
Yeah,
And she got it too. She's just like, damn, I guess so. And anyway, so when I started, like was thinking about doing this program, I always wanted to do something with that brand, just with that motto. And so it became the obvious name for my program.
It's beautiful, man. One of the most organic, profound stories I've ever heard that inspired me to put a seed in my own community. Like, who are the they in life?
Yeah.
If you think about that since a child, you always assume there's just people for that,
Yeah,
right?
somebody will
There's
fix
people
that.
that are clean the bed for you. Why don't you just
Yeah.
throw up everywhere and be a pigsty in your hotel room? Like, I think about, there's a they that's going to clean after my nasty little mess that I just made.
yeah.
You see drunk people that aren't savvy, they make a mess. They assume that there's a they. Deep down, you make personal decisions about the they constantly. Like, oh, there's a they that's going to deal with the people that are getting raped and sex trafficked. Well, who are those they? Why don't we put a spotlight on who the they are? And that's inspiring to me because maybe I want to be the they. Maybe I want to die and enter the gates of heaven being a they human. And that fucked with my head for a while. I had to be the they. I had to do something different, be more profound, live a rarer life, be a one-on-one. Well, what do the they do?
It's a deep, actually, it's like
They do
It's a
shit.
deep spiritual principle.
Real
I
shit.
mean, like, in scripture, it's every hair on your head is counted, or Buddhism, it's everything you are and do matters profoundly. And I love it, man. Like, when you adopt that, like every utterance.
When you are that.
Yeah, when you say, like, everything I contribute or don't, what potential I leave within untapped,
Yeah.
how I am with everyone, everything matters profoundly.
That's good.
Like that, it hits a steep. I think the shivers. I'm like, why am I getting shivers of this? I think it's because you hit upon like a deep, timeless spiritual chord that's
Agreed.
like so timeless. And people who are lost from that, like, well, not everything I do matters, or your life doesn't work out as well. There's consequences if you don't. It takes courage. So that I know one of your 3 pillars is like integrity. It reminds me of integrity. Like and I know you guys are beating this up deeply. Like, if you don't take full integrity, there's a price. You pay a price.
Yes.
I wanna
Well,
add
and the way I say it is, when you're fully in integrity, the universe will conspire in your favor. But if you're off even a little bit, we're talking
Even a little bit,
You
see?
pee on the seat and you don't wipe it off.
There it
the,
is.
The wrapper falls out of your pocket, you don't pick it up.
Big
Like,
time.
it's like you tell someone you'll be there in 20 minutes, knowing damn well you're going to be there in 30.
30.
Like those things, right? Yeah, those little things. All of a sudden, it becomes random chaos.
You hear this, baby?
But when you're 100% in integrity, we know when we're there. It's called flow. You feel it. Everything's just working for
Yeah,
you.
it just
The shopping cart. You left it out
Doors
there like
kick
an
open.
asshole. Go put it back. No, there's a they for that, isn't there? No. This is so good. There's more meat in this conversation about why people win in life compared to why people don't. You know how many victims are not winning in life and they don't do the little things that they seemingly think don't matter, but actually, I would challenge you, actually matter most, because they create a character in a person that is worth its weight in gold. It is so valuable.
True self-esteem, because no.
Jimmy
that
does a
you-
lot for my mind.
I have a question
bro.
on that. I want to deepen that a little bit.
Yeah,
Like,
go for it.
Like when you're, because you coach so many men on this and you get deep in it. Give us a thread on, like, however you just phrase that, like, radically. What does it really mean when you watch men own full integrity? Like, I even got shivers.
Yeah,
with
I'll
that,
give-
'cause
so I'll give you an
I've
exa-
seen some of your clips and I could just tell, like, I'm just getting a surface of what goes on in these groups.
Yeah,
What's
I'll
the
give you
sense of
an
it?
example. So
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, I had a group come together for the first time, 55 new men. And I create this container where, I always say that, like, you can't change anybody. All you can do is create a container safe enough that they're inspired to change themselves. And that is a principle that has just changed everything for me. But so my whole job is to create this container. And I do that by talking about my own story. And then I have some other men that have gotten into integrity come and they share their story. And it inspires these guys to come up and get into integrity, talk about things they never have. So this guy gets up. He's one of the guys in our group. And he gets up, and first time getting up in front of these men he doesn't even know, but he's so inspired to want to get into integrity. And he starts talking. He says, I've had a porn issue for the last 6 years. I'm married. He's been married for like 9-10 years. And he's like, and I haven't told my wife, and I need to tell her. And then he looks at me as he's saying this. He goes, hey, there's something else there that I don't know if I should say it or not. I don't think I need to. I don't think it affects my marriage, but it might. I said, well, if you're not sure, then I'm sure it does. You should probably just talk about it. And he's like, all right, well, I'd never cheated on my wife, but I had this emotional affair. I was texting this other woman,
Sure.
and boom, boom, boom.
yeah.
I'm like, of course you need to talk to your wife about that,
It's
right?
real shit.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, sits down. So he comes back up to me at dinner and he goes, hey, I need to talk to you. He's like, there's something on me still. And here's what because I make it very clear. Guys, if you're not 100% integrity, don't even be 0%. It doesn't matter. It's the same. You're still thrown off.
Yeah,
You still have an
interesting.
energetic block
Great
between you and
distinction.
the person you're trying to connect with.
Great distinction.
And if you don't have that full integrity, you can't be completely yourself. You're not a free man. You're
Yeah,
a
you
slave
can't
to this
self-express.
feelings.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
You can't trust the love you're getting because you don't know if she really knows who you fully are. And so it screws up everything. So he comes up to me at dinner and he goes, there's actually more I didn't say. Can I get back up? I was like, yeah, no problem. So he gets back up and he talks about going to a massage parlor and things. And he said, I said, is there anything else? Like, because you want to be clear. And I said, what's your plan to talk to your wife? He goes, I'm going to do it. He goes, I'm going out of town with her till Thursday. I'll do it Thursday. And then he goes, and this is a Saturday night. He goes, no, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I got to cancel my work trip. I need to take care of this. I was like, okay. So he goes home, he talks to his wife. And anyway, his wife contacted me because she wants some support as well, right? Wow. And they're working through it. And he said, he's like, man, this is so beautiful. And his wife, she's working through it and he's working through it. And he's like, I can't believe how just free I feel. Like how I feel like I
Unconscious
put down
guilt.
a sack of rocks. He goes, I had subconsciously like buried that so deep that I didn't even want to think about it. I, honest to God, didn't even remember it till I went to go to dinner and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's buried.
I
that
actually
deep.
did that
He was
thing.
kind of earnest with that, I bet.
Yeah, but
Like,
that's what's controlling all of your emotions. That's what's controlling everything in the background, all the energy
is
that's
so
going out.
good.
So when you talk about like that, process, like for men, it's like if you're not going to come fully into integrity, honestly, it's just there's no sense in doing it at all.
It's an all or nothing game with such a powerful distinction, man. It's
really good.
And even the profound, the mind resists this. Like we all suppress, we all have shame for our past transgressions or what have you. But even I bet you he was earnest in that. Like he just surfaced like, holy shit, I didn't even say this.
Yeah, no, I believe it
don't-
was.
It's like people underestimate how much unconscious guilt and shame they have when they deviate from integrity, and it gets repressed. So as you start to uncork it,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Well, and it's like a spring. If you push it down long enough, it's going to spring up in a really ugly way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like,
it's not
ma-
pretty.
yeah.
if you can slowly do
Yeah.
that, right? And the whole gift
Release
of
the
it
valve of it,
was he felt no judgment. He knew it was a safe room. He knew it was
Right.
going to stay
That's the
there.
point.
He
The
knew
right
that-
room could change your life.
for sure. And so he I think what happened is before then he was like, oh my gosh, like nobody cared that I just told him this other stuff. Like I should probably just tell him everything.
Many
I
could
wanna-
probably relate.
Oh, dude,
he knew your
20
standard.
guys got up and shared one thing or another that they were
Yeah, it
going to
all
have to go home and
connects.
have a tough conversation.
Yeah, there's
So
there's
cool.
power in this.
That's rippling.
So much power.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, we're all going to die. We all have a belief system, and we all don't know really the construction of how it is on the other end. But I think at the core of good and evil, it's real truth on both sides. There's truth of what evil actually is and what good is, and somehow there's these middle threads of gray. And deep down, you have a feeling about it, and you trap it in your soul, and it creates slavery or freedom, even subtle shit. We all want ultimate freedom, and it starts with ultimate integrity.
Yeah, if you ever think like, God, if they knew this about me, they wouldn't love me. Then you got something that and it's not for everybody, by the way. Don't go share it on the next podcast you're
there's
on.
a- I
But
get
there's
this.
like the
Yeah.
people in your life that need to know to love you and help you and support you. That's who you want to talk to about
Yeah.
it, right? And it's like, I had a friend come to me one time and he'd been molested when he was a kid and never told anyone. And then, dude, he did it to his cousin. He didn't know what it was. He just was repeating a pattern that was done to him, and he never told a soul. He thought he would just be, the monster, and he hated himself. And he told us, and he just bawled, and we held him. He was a big masculine man, and we freaking, and was, dude, you're innocent, man. Like, and he actually
it's
ended up talking to
reclaiming that
that.
inner
He ended up
innocence.
going and talking to that cousin, and he was able to talk to his abuser, and now he has a beautiful life, dude. But like he had lived with that, thinking if anyone ever knew this, there's no way they would be my friend. There's no way they would love me.
Yeah.
And I hate to say, obviously it's not ideal, but he was 12, dude. He was 13 years old. Like he was a kid. He didn't even know what it was. You know what I mean? And he thought he was the world's worst human. And how are you showing up in society if you think that about yourself versus getting healing around that? This is how we change generations of of these different things. And so
I got to say this. This is my favorite podcast I've ever done.
Yeah.
And it's light years ahead of where I thought the best one was.
Yeah. Well,
This is the shit right
ultra.
here. You feel that, Colton?
The whole
You have
human-
eyes to see. You're a young
Our whole
cat.
human nature can relate.
This is good, man.
this.
This is really good because you can unpack this so much deeper.
And there's so many lanes. Like you know, here's a thought on this. Like,
this is good.
it's rare to find a container, like the way you frame the value of the container. Because as a former therapist, you know, there's different containers that are valuable out there. If you have an addiction, a 12-step group, there's a sophisticated structure to allow people to, I think step 4 is like,
Transform.
I'm going to write down the exact nature of my wrongs. I'm going to find someone I trust and have confidence and disclose this. Is so healing. But not everybody goes to a 12-step group. Not everybody. This is probably one of the biggest things lacking in the human experience, these kind of containers and structures.
Yep.
And it reminds me of something Jordan Peterson said, like each generation has to go back and look. You know, in what is it, Pinocchio? He this is just a great clip. I geek out on this. Like Jordan Peterson was talking about Pinocchio, second most published book outside the Bible.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and
For
so
real?
in the movie, it's weird. He's like, why is that? So Geppetto, the Pinocchio's father, is swallowed by this whale, and the little toy boy has to go rescue his father from the belly of this whale. Jordan Peterson's like, what does this mean? Well, in every generation, men and women have to go back and reclaim the timeless truths of the past, but they have to communicate them in a way that's meaningful to a modern person.
Sure. New audience.
And it's true, and I really feel like you're like the spirit of your endeavor body that's deeply like
Totally
look at
agree.
all these men.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, and it's like you're meeting a need in the marketplace in humanity.
That's profound.
Because you read a 16th century text about the belly boy, it just doesn't get you. It doesn't.
Right.
You're like, I'm gonna go to. What am I gonna do about that? But I think this is like a recontextualization.
Guys like Jimmy make it look effortless. Oh, he wrote a few books, like no big deal. Like, what are the
Well, he's
what
put a
did
lot of
what are
time
the
into this.
titles of your books?
Yeah, my new book that comes out February 21st, so I'll plug it real quick, but it's called Be One. It comes from the Marcus Aurelius quote, which is, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one.
It's like the we are the they. Man.
It
It's
is.
Yeah,
so
same
good.
shit actually. It's so
And the subtitle is How to Be a Healthy Man in Toxic Times. I go through all these principles, how I set up these containers,
Man,
how
you're
I
gonna-
do this
you're gonna be
networking,
deadly with
all
the
these different
communication on
things.
this.
Yeah.
So yeah, the book is a
awesome.
game changer. Ed Milet did the foreword,
This would
and
be a bestseller, possibly.
we're pushing for it to be.
No,
so
Well, it takes a real, I believe, like there has to be authority in the words.
Yeah,
like
right.
you're obviously done.
you are
deep
the they.
conversations.
Yeah. What's one you wrote before this?
it's called You End Up Where You're Heading, The Hidden Dangers of Living a Safe Life. And it takes you through, Joseph Campbell's hero's journey and
Yeah, I love
shows how every one of us needs to become the hero of our own story. And so I take through my own example of my life and some things that have happened to me and, going into the cave, crossing the bridge, going up the mountain, all those things, and bringing it
In a
back.
story
and-
format.
Yeah.
Isn't
Hero's
Jimmy
journey.
a treasure trove? Like a
That's
treasure.
awesome. You're playing this
one
max out.
one thing that was very transformative for me was just this simple sentiment that you just reminded me of, is that I'm reminded every child I meet, especially children, because innocence is part of the vision of my mission statement. I had to get it in there, innocence. But I'm reminded how many children never grow up having a hero in their life that actually touches them. And I'm reminded how simple a hero can come and go. It might even be one event that creates a hero moment. And if you're mindful of it, it changes how you sit down and level with someone, how you be where they're at in that moment, even a child. I'll give one quick experience in my own life that the guy doesn't even know how profound it was, but it was my cousin Trent, who was Mr. Cool. He went to Notre Dame. I remember as a kid, even a 12-year-old, he had the hot girl. But he was Mr. Cool, engineer. He became a president of a major Pistons company that produced Pistons in Detroit, and moved to South Bend, where he went to college. And he was just this guy, but I was a little kid. He was a college guy. He was an adult to me.
Yeah.
We were at my grandpa's house in Lake Tahoe, his little cabin he had since the 1950s. And it happened to be, I was there on a family weekend trip with my parents, and he was in town. Rare event where our worlds collided. It was one weekend of my life as a 12-year-old little boy. And he sat and he wrote on a yellow piece of paper that I remember to this day. And he wrote out a workout program for me of how to work out, what a set was, what reps were, how to do it. He took the time to actually
Attention.
spend time with a 12-year-old and just show me things. And he wrote it all down. He goes, here's what you're going to do. Every single week, you're going to do this. Here's Monday, here's Tuesday, here's Wednesday, the whole nine. I religiously
Out of your
executed that
innocence,
workout
you
as a
just trusted
12-year-old. Yeah, you want to know where my standards in life have come from about my physical appearance in
Yeah.
life? It came from that workout. It came from one weekend where someone took the time to be a hero. You know how unassuming that is, or how easy it is to look right past like that didn't matter in my life? that might have mattered more to me. And who knows why it was that impactful? I don't know. Point is this: you don't know where you can be a hero for
The
someone.
least
and
bit of attention and
I
care,
live and die
like,
by that now,
yeah.
bro. I live and die by being that guy for that 12-year-old, no matter where I go. It could be with your son. It could be with the little kid that was in the audience today, even the baby. Like, you don't know how you're going to affect a
Well, dude,
neural pathway.
I had a guy join I'll share this real quick because a lot of these podcasts, but I've done over 500 episodes, and sometimes you're like, shit, man, that's a lot of work. Like, does it really matter? Am I making it? Yeah. And one of the guys joined my coaching program. I got this idea from you, actually, so I want to honor you on this. That I had each of the guys get up at my last event and give a 9-minute TED Talk.
Awesome.
And so they did it, and they could pick one picture, and then they had to talk about that picture, and it was a picture's worth 1,000 words.
So
and
good.
one of the guys, he's the youngest guy in our group, he's 19, puts a photo up and it's a newspaper headline that says, boy expelled for bomb threat or something like that, or boy calls in bomb threat or something. And he starts telling his story. And long story short, this kid, when he was like 15 years old, 14 years old, just being a dumb shit, he calls Lamar Ball's high school, or Lamella Ball, or whatever. Lamar Ball's high school. And we wanted to pretend like he was wanted to interview him, right? Like he was an interviewer or whatever. And they kind of were on to him. And so before he hung up, he goes, well, I'm going to blow up your school, and hangs up. Just a dumbass thing to do, but a kid's 15. He's just being an idiot, right?
Yeah.
I've done worse, actually.
They're all supposed to
Of
do
course.
something,
Dude,
Yeah.
like an adult would just be like, whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, FBI shows up at his school the next day.
no.
Gets expelled, gets kicked out of school. The cops are like threatening him with all these things. All of his friends ditch him. His parents of all of his friends say they can't hang out anymore. He goes from like just this normal kid to like his whole life is ruined.
I get it.
And he gets suicidal, dude. And he's, in his room, literally with a shotgun, like putting bullets in the thing, and his mom walks in. And so she's trying to help him out, whatever. But that's where he was at. And he said that he was scrolling Instagram and he saw a podcast I did with Kyle Van Noy when I had him on my podcast. And he's like, oh, I remember Kyle at BYU, was my favorite player. So he listens to it. He said he binged every single one of my podcasts. He just,
way.
whenever he was feeling depressed, whenever he was down, he'd put on one of my podcasts. And so when I open up my group, he was like, I don't have the money, but he's like, I'll find a way.
find
and so
out.
he joins.
Oh,
He
dude.
put his life savings into joining this group, and it changed his whole life, dude. I'm in the back there. I've been with him for a year and a half of this time. I have no idea this is how he found our group.
Crazy.
I'm like bawling in the back of the room.
Oh, you discovered it
And
that
you're
far.
It was in the TED Talk.
dude. Yeah, I had no. He'd never told me the
Never told
story.
you. Some of these guys are quiet, right?
Those talks do more for.
You don't know how you're affecting
so
people
pumped.
by doing this work.
And I love that you build the image piece in there. Like,
This is so
Yeah,
good.
but that
So
was a
good.
big part of like you actually in our podcast you did on my podcast inspired me to do this with my group. I wrote it down during our podcast, do TED Talks with the guys.
Remember that,
and
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
a game changer.
They're profound.
But I mean, think about that, dude. Like that one kid, I would have had no idea. I was at the gym 3 weeks ago, and this guy came, this Mexican guy. I didn't know he was standing there, and he comes up next to me, and he goes, "Hey, man," he's broken English, and he's like, "Hey, your podcast you did the other day about integrity about a month and a half ago." I said, "Oh yeah." He said, "It saved my marriage."
dude,
I'm
it's like it
"What
makes
the
everything
heck?"
worth it.
I'm like,
or
serious? He
whatever.
goes, yeah, dead serious. And then his wife messaged me, I saw you met my husband at the gym. You really did save our marriage. Shows how. I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, you just don't know.
This is a question for Eric. You're inspired. Eric always coaches on this. Like, you owe it. I don't know how you phrase it, but like you kind of owe it to the world to communicate. Even like you said, 500 episodes,
It's
and
an
you
it
be
should
like,
be an
is this all the
obligation.
expense? Is this worse?
You have
it's like
value
the
to
way you
give.
frame it. It's
Well,
like
here's
a-
the best way I can put it, dude. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just a fun way to live. Like, people are always like, Jimmy, where do you find time for all this stuff? Well, it's just kind of fun to do it that way.
Yeah.
Like, I remember where I was sitting when I got inspired for the first time. When I got inspired for the second time, I remember the high school coach that taught me this lesson, the Little League coach that taught me this lesson. I remember him.
Yeah, pivotal
I remember
memories.
my 12-year-old Little League coach pulling me beside. I was the pitcher and throwing a fit because my guys kept making errors. He pulls me behind the dugout. I remember he goes, hey, man. And I'm like, had a great game, so I thought he was going to
I'm the
congratulate
best,
me.
yeah.
And he's like, can I tell you something? He's like, no one likes you. And I was like, what? He's like, you're our best player and nobody likes you. You're yelling at every other player in the team. They're just out here trying to have fun.
That's good, bro.
He said, what do you want
What
from
a
this?
gift,
Like, because you can be the best player, but if nobody likes you, what's the point?
Wow.
He said, just love these guys. They're trying to have fun. It's not that serious.
That shook you.
And I'm
What a
talking about it
gift.
30 years later on a
Yeah.
podcast, right? Like, I
which
still
will,
remember it.
which will bless other people. Yeah.
Totally, but my point is like you just don't know, and so like just showing up for people, like I live for that, where you get these little moments and people hit you up.
No
and-
strings attached.
no, I don't even know I'm
It's
affecting
like
them.
You're
You don't
doing
even
it
know.
for
Like,
its own sake.
Yeah,
No,
you
but
just do it.
this is how we operate, and this is our identity. that was big for me, is to know that there's no goals attached to this stuff.
Yeah,
This
for
is
its
how I
own
want to
sake.
die now.
It's
and
what
it's
you
creating
are.
a standard for how I'm going to live the rest of my life. And what's crazy is that required, for me personally, it required me to break the safety bubble. I had to be who I really was and not give a fuck about what people thought. To go out in the world and be as effective as I knew I was possibly, I had to play big, but I had to get in the right room. I had to get near guys like Jimmy Rex. They told me it was okay to be this way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really didn't have a lot in my life that gave me that framework till I really got in it. I'll give you the best thing that helped me, especially in COVID, because this is relatively new for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy mad at the TV anymore. I had a lifetime of being around people that were pissed off, looking at politics, mad at the world. I wanted to go out and absorb the emotion that was trapped inside
For sure.
that mindset and do something. And what I find is I'm way less mad at the TV now because I'm doing something. But it's the Jimmy Rexes, it's the Ed Milettes, it's the people that gave me the framework to do it, and now to think that I can do it, really neat. It's for the kids. It's pretty cool.
Jimmy, we only have a few more minutes left in the show.
And we got to do a 2.0, but
Yeah,
anyway.
totally. But what would be
Too good. Too good.
trying to think of a question. Like, we asked you this in our morning mastermind. Like what's on your horizon? And I know you're in process for that with your annual reflection on aims and goals. But like, I'd love to hear you articulate what is most dear to you now and on the horizon. What's your next inspired vision or mountain you're going
Yeah,
after?
I mean it's tricky because like somebody asked me, they're like, where do you see all this going with We're the They?
Yeah,
and I kind of laughed. I'm like, it's kind of there, Like if
We're
this
the They
thing-
and it is
if,
there.
If this thing never became more than it is right now,
It's
it's the
complete.
gift of my life. Yes.
Yeah, bro.
And I do want to impact more and more people. And so I don't know yet what that looks like. I have some ideas of how this is going to grow and things like that. But I want to just continue to build this. I want to continue to have this brotherhood grow, this movement. I personally have been working really hard in 2023 in slowing down and being more present. So one of the things I did this year is I went into nature about once a week. One of my coach Stefanos asked me to do this. Go into nature for an hour or two at a time with no phone and just sit.
Yes.
Which is the hardest thing for me, dude. Like,
Booyah.
I can always do more and go harder.
You're speaking my language.
And then
I need this.
I rented a cabin for myself up in the
need
mountains
it too, Eric.
for
Oh,
Take
you
notes.
have no
Take
idea,
notes,
bro.
bro.
My wife is smiling
You're gonna
right
bless
now.
Eric Rock.
No,
there.
literally, dude, I did this. I went for 2 days in the mountains at the beginning of July and just sat there with no phone, no stimulus,
Thank you.
and just hung out
There-
for 2 days. And I just had to be with myself. And
Here-
holy shit, you learn some things.
This is
bro.
inspiring
He's
thought. I
amazing.
just want
He's
to.
so good.
If you read like spiritual literature, like some Indian sage or a Christian mystic centuries ago, some of them will literally say, "There's no more productive, powerful thing you can do than abide in silence, like in nature." And it's to the linear, busy mind. You're like, "What?" It's like there's no greater blessing.
Well, all my friends, I get texts all the time. They're like, "Dude, you seem so much more settled in your body now. You just seem somewhere much more at ease." And I am.
Yeah, you're peaceful, bro.
And I used to not be, dude.
Yeah.
It's funny. I get around my family now. My family's it's just a lot of energy, and a lot of people that aren't settled in their bodies. That's just how we grew up.
could detect it,
And
yeah.
it's hard for me to sit there in the energy now. It's like different now. I'm like, oh, that's how I used to be, because I always thought everyone wanted to listen to me. I always thought I was stimulating every room.
Yeah.
It's like the truth is I wasn't settled in myself.
Yeah.
And so I have a long ways to go. I really do.
Bro,
and part of that
you-
is getting off my phone more and more and just really being present. But so my goal for next year is more personal. I really want to continue on that path of, I used to not be able to meditate for 7 minutes. It took me 2 years to get 7 minutes. I swear to God. And now I do it every day for 20 minutes. Don't move a muscle. And I just want more and more to get that peace within myself.
There's this.
There's no better podcast in my life for the one
Yeah,
that
this
I
one.
happen to be facilitating than this one right here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, bro.
You
Yes.
so you see why I love Jimmy so much and respect him so much, and also do you see why I love Matt so much and respect him?
Yeah.
I need people like you in my life to
we
make
we
me
all
a
need
weapon.
one another. I mean that.
You can't do this
We
alone.
feel
You need a
qualities that we
team. You need
lack,
winners everywhere. We need coaches.
I wish
to
we had another hour,
put
bro. You
mirrors.
got a
This
flight,
was the
yeah.
most effortless hour of my entire existence on this planet. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you guys.
for
We'll do it
Thank
again
you for
for
blessing
sure.
our group, Jimmy. I mean, you poured
Yeah,
so
today
much
was
into it.
dope. There's gonna be
a lot of
lot
things you're doing have
of gold.
inspired what we're doing here locally. So
all
it just
connects.
radiates, and you're right. You're already complete.
We are
We'll
the
see where
day
it
is the
goes.
gift that
We're
keeps
doing-
on giving. We are the day is the gift
We
that
are the
keeps on
day.
giving.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Appreciate you guys.
This
Thank
is
you so
cool,
much.
bro.
You guys are
We'll
awesome.
do this again.
That was so
Thank you.
good.
Would
1
you-
to 10.
Yeah, so a little outro. Hey, if you enjoyed that, Please go like, follow, subscribe.
Mr. Jimmy
Man on a
Rex.
mission. We're going to direct you to Jimmy Rex. Jimmy, where can they find you so we
Yeah.
can bless you with our
Please
community?
go to my Instagram, Mr. Jimmy Rex, and my book is coming out February 21st. It's on Amazon right
Be
now.
the
You can
One?
pre-order. It's
What?
called B1.
B1, great
Yeah.
title.
Don't script the words here, bro. This
Yeah,
community
yeah,
will
yeah.
destroy us.
I know, right? Yeah, be
B1.
No, there's
Say B1.
there's another book called Be the One that my buddy Justin Prince actually wrote, which is a great book
Oh,
too.
he's
So
a
buy
good-
that one
he's
as
a
well.
good dude,
But
yeah.
B1, it's and it's you can
a
just
good
type in
title.
my name and it'll pop up.
It's a great title.
Thank you. Jimmy.
guys.
What a gift, man.
I'm a man on a mission.